Hello, friends. Imagine checking your bank account in January, expecting your regular Social Security deposit, and finding absolutely zero, no warning, no letter in the mail, just a completely empty row where your money used to be. For hundreds of thousands of seniors who claimed their retirement benefits early and decided to keep working a part-time job, this nightmare is a reality. The Social Security Earnings Test acts like a hidden trap that forcefully halts your monthly payments. In 2026, the government has updated these rules, and if you accidentally earn just $1 over the line, the Social Security Administration won't just send you a polite bill. They will completely stop your checks until they get what they want. I want to be perfectly clear right from the start. This isn't a permanent ban on your right to work, and the government isn't stealing your money. This is the official Social Security Annual Earnings Test, which dictates exactly how much of your monthly check is withheld if you earn over the limit before your full retirement age. I am going to break down every dollar limit you face, the hidden difference between the $24,480 rule and the $65,160 rule, and how to use a special first-year loophole to protect your money. Plus, make sure you stay until the very end, because I am also going to reveal the age 67 secret refund, which is an automatic mechanism the government uses to pay you back every single penalty dollar they took from you. Things change fast with these programs, and the government never steps up to explain your options or warn you before a penalty hits. That is exactly why you need to subscribe to this channel right now. My subscribers get these updates in time to protect their savings, while everyone else only finds out after the checks have already been cut off. Let's look at the baseline trap that triggers this entire issue. If you were born in the year 1960 or any year after that, your official full retirement age is exactly 67. If you decide to claim your retirement benefits early anywhere between the ages of 62 and 66, while still pulling a salary from a full-time job, a part-time gig, or a side business, you are entering the pre-full retirement age penalty zone. The government monitors your wages through your tax filings. You simply do not get to double dip a full salary and a full Social Security check without hitting this wall. Here's what you need to do right now to see where you stand. First, pull up your computer, go to saa.gov/myaccount, and log into your official portal. Look at your stated full retirement age, which will show 67 if you are part of this group. Next, count the exact number of months you have left on the calendar until your 67th birthday. You must accept that until the very first day of your actual birthday month, your W-2 wages are being actively tracked by the system. To see how this plays out, take Mark, who was born in 1962 and claimed his Social Security early at age 62. In 2026, Mark turns 64. Because he is still 3 full years away from his target age of 67, he is deep inside this penalty zone for every single day of the calendar year. When Mark first signed up at 62, his base monthly benefit was already hit with a permanent 30% reduction, dropping his check from $2,000 a month down to just $1,400 a month. Now, because he is working inside that penalty zone, that remaining $1,400 is fully exposed to the strict withholding rules. And don't assume this only applies to standard retirement benefits. If you are a senior receiving early survivor benefits as a widow or widower, the exact same earnings tracking applies to your survivor check. If you earn too much at a job, the government will stop your deceased spouse's benefit from hitting your account. So exactly how much are you allowed to make before the government steps in and stops your checks? That brings us to the most important number of 2026. If you will be under your full retirement age for the entire 12 months of 2026, you are bound to the strict lower limit. For this year, that number is exactly $24,480. Broken down by the month, that means you can average $2,040. The moment you cross that annual line, a heavy penalty kicks in. The Social Security Administration will deduct $1 from your benefit payments for every $2 you earn above that limit. Your action plan for this limit requires a little proactive math. Sit down and estimate your total gross W-2 wages or your net self-employment profit for the entire year of 2026. Take that total number and subtract $24,480 from it to isolate your overage. Take that overage and divide it by 2, and that gives you the exact dollar amount of the penalty you owe. Once you have that number, pick up the phone and call the agency at 1-800-772-1213 to report your estimate before they discover it on their own through the IRS. Look at how this impacts John, a 64-year-old living in Ohio. John gets $1,500 a month from Social Security, which adds up to $18,000 a year. He also takes a part-time job at a local hardware store where he will earn $30,480 throughout 2026. To find his penalty, we take his earnings of $30,480 and subtract the $24,480 limit. John is exactly $6,000 over the line. Because the penalty is $1 for every $2 over, we divide that $6,000 by 2. John faces a $3,000 total penalty. To collect that money, the government will withhold his entire $1,500 check for January and his entire $1,500 check for February. John gets $0 for those 2 months, and then his normal checks resume in March. You must track this based on your specific employment situation. If you are an employee, the government looks at your gross W-2 wages before any taxes are taken out. But if you are a self-employed senior running your own business, you track your net profit after your legal business deductions are subtracted. But if 2026 happens to be the magical year you finally reach your full retirement age, the math changes drastically in your favor. In the calendar year you turn 67, the government cuts you a massive break. The annual earnings limit jumps all the way up to $65,160. Not only is the limit nearly 3 times higher, but the penalty becomes much more forgiving. Instead of taking half your overage, the agency only deducts $1 for every $3 you earn above that line. On top of that, they only count the money you earn in the specific months leading up to your birthday. The day your birthday month officially begins, the tracking shuts down completely. Your action steps change completely during this transition year. First, go to your calendar and circle the exact month you turn 67. You need to track your earnings strictly from January 1st up until the very first day of that birthday month. Apply the $65,160 limit only to the wages you earned in that short window of time. Once your birthday month arrives, the limit disappears forever. You can earn $1 million a month after that date and keep every single penny of your Social Security check. Let's look at how this saved Mary, who turns 67 in August of 2026. Mary collects a monthly Social Security check of $2,000. From January through the end of July, she takes on a high-paying consulting contract and brings in $68,160. Because she earned that money before her birthday month, we applied the transition year rules. We take her $68,160 of earnings and subtract the higher 2026 limit of $65,160. Mary is exactly $3,000 over the line. Under the 1-for-3 rule, we divide that $3,000 by 3, giving her a total penalty of exactly $1,000. The agency will hold back $1,000. The agency will hold back $1,000 from just one of her checks prior to August. Then, in August, Mary hits her full retirement age, and she safely collects her full $2,000 monthly payment for the rest of her life, no matter how much she earns from her consulting business. There's a quick situation to watch out for if you have a birthday right at the start of the month. If you reach your full retirement age on the very first day of the month, the system treats you as if you hit that milestone the previous month. That gives you an extra month of complete freedom from the earnings test. Now, what happens if you had a massive corporate salary from January all the way through September, but you decide to step down, retire, and claim your early benefits in October? Won't your previous high salary trigger the penalty and wipe out your late year checks? This is where people get terrified, but the government has a built-in safety valve called the grace year, or the special first-year monthly rule. If you retire mid-year and you have already blown past the $24,480 annual limit before applying for benefits, the system stops looking at your annual total. Instead, for that first calendar year only, they look at your income on a month-by-month basis, applying a strict monthly limit of $2,040. If you stay under $2,040 in a specific month, you get your full check for that month, even if you made $100,000 earlier in the year. To use this safety valve correctly, follow these steps. First, officially leave your high-paying job or reduce your hours significantly. Next, file your application for early Social Security benefits. When you speak to the representative, you must explicitly request a special monthly rule for your grace year. Finally, make absolutely sure your new part-time monthly earnings stay strictly under $2,040 for every remaining month of that calendar year. Consider Robert, who earned $80,000 from his corporate job between January and September. Robert decides he has had enough, retires, and claims his early Social Security benefits starting in October of 2026. His annual income of $80,000 is massively over the normal limit. But under the grace year rules, the past income is locked away. In October, November, and December, Robert works as a local greeter, making $1,500 a month. Because $1,500 is well under the $2,040 monthly limit for his transition year, the agency pays Robert his full Social Security checks for October, November, and December with $0 withheld. You need to remember that this monthly protection is a one-time only deal. You can only use the grace year once in your lifetime. If you go back to work the following year, the monthly safety valve disappears and you are strictly bound to the total annual limits. All of this complicated math depends entirely on what the government actually classifies as earnings. Many seniors accidentally panic because they confuse their total income with their earned income. The rule here is simple but absolute. The Social Security Earnings Test only tracks active earned income. That means gross W-2 wages from an employer or net self-employment profit from a business you own. The program explicitly excludes passive income, including traditional pensions, 401k withdrawals, individual retirement account distributions, stock dividends, capital gains, rental property income, and bank interest. To keep things clean with the government, start by reviewing your tax documents for the year. Separate your active income, which shows up on W-2 forms or 1099 NEC forms, from your passive retirement distributions, which arrive on 1099-R or 1099 DIV forms. If the agency sends you a standard inquiry letter flagging a high total income on your tax return, do not panic. Respond immediately using official form SSA-715-Essex to prove that your money came from passive retirement accounts, not active work. Look at Susan, who is 63 years old and receiving early Social Security checks. Susan doesn't hold a job at all, but she withdraws $40,000 from her 401k to pay for home repairs, receives a $15,000 annual teacher's pension, and makes another $10,000 selling stocks. Susan's total financial income for the year sits at $65,000. But because her active earned wages are exactly zero, and zero is less than the $24,480 limit, she faces absolutely no penalty. Susan keeps 100% of her Social Security checks. The only situation where this gets tricky is with rental property. Normal rental income is excluded from the test. However, if you operate as a licensed real estate dealer, or if you provide hotel-like services to your tenants such as regular cleaning or meals, the government will reclassify that rental income as self-employment profit, and every dollar of it will count toward your limit. If you do cross the line and owe a penalty, the way the government takes that money back is brutal, but you can control the timing. The Social Security Administration does not send you a polite bill in the mail asking you to write a personal check for your penalty. They physically hold back your future monthly payments until the entire debt is satisfied. If you try to hide your income, they will find out via your IRS tax return a year later and hit you with a massive sudden overpayment demand that can ruin your budget. To handle this withholding mechanism without a financial crisis, you must take control of the process. Do not wait for the IRS to report your earnings to the agency a year after the fact. Call the agency early in 2026 with your estimated wages for the year. Ask the representative to preemptively withhold the correct number of checks early in the calendar year while you are actively working and have steady cash flow from your job. Once those initial months pass, confirm via your online portal that the withholding has stopped and your regular payments are scheduled to resume. Look at how David managed this. David is 65 years old and knows his part-time work will trigger a $4,000 penalty. In 2026, his regular monthly check is $2,000. Instead of waiting to get caught, David calls the agency in January to report his estimated earnings. Because he warned them ahead of time, the agency cleanly withholds his January check and his February check and his February check. His $4,000 debt is completely paid off in 60 days. David lives off his employment wages during those 2 months, and his Social Security checks resume flawlessly in March. If he had hidden that income, the government would have suddenly frozen his checks a year later when he might have already lost his job and desperately needed the cash. Do not rely on applying for an overpayment waiver using Form SSA-632 if you get caught after the fact. Winning an overpayment waiver is incredibly difficult if the debt was caused by you failing to report your wages, because the agency considers you directly at fault. Warning them early prevents the entire crisis. But the absolute biggest secret of the earnings limit is that this penalty isn't actually a fine or a permanent loss. It is a temporary hold that triggers a permanent financial reward down the road. The money withheld by the earnings test is not gone forever. When you finally reach your exact full retirement age month, the system automatically triggers a benefit recalculation to give you credit for every single month you didn't receive a check. Your action plan for this piece is simple. Reach your 67th birthday month and do absolutely nothing. You do not have to file any special applications or fill out any forms for this recalculation to occur. It is handled through an automatic internal audit. All you have to do is wait for the December following your 67th birthday to see the permanent increase reflected in your monthly bank deposit. You will then enjoy that higher check for the rest of your life. Consider Lisa, who claimed her benefits early at age 62, accepting a permanent 30% reduction to receive $1,400 a month. Because she kept working her part-time job over the next 5 years, the earnings limit caused the agency to withhold exactly 12 months of checks. When she turns 67, the automated system rewrites her math. Because she missed 12 checks, they treat her as if she claimed her benefits at age 63 instead of 62. Her permanent reduction drops from 30% down to 25%. Her monthly check is permanently bumped up from $1,400 to $1,500 a month. She gets an extra $1,200 every single year for the rest of her life, eventually earning back every single dollar the government withheld from her. Keep in mind, this recalculation only restores the specific months where your check was completely withheld due to the earnings limit. It does not restore the initial early claiming reduction for the months where you actually received a check. To sum it all up, navigating your 60s means tracking these boundaries carefully. If you claim early and stay under the $24,480 limit, your checks flow normally. In the year you turn 67, that limit expands to $65,160 before vanishing completely on your birthday. If you retire mid-year, use the first-year grace period monthly limit of $2,040 to protect your benefits. Remember to separate your active W-2 and self-employment wages from your passive retirement distributions so you only report what counts. Report your estimated overages early so you can control the withholding schedule on your own terms, and look forward to the automatic recalculation at age 67 that ensures your withheld money is returned to you over time. The Social Security earnings limit is not a punishment for working. It is simply a temporary pause on your early benefits, and every dollar they hold back today will be credited back to your lifetime monthly checks the moment you reach full retirement age. Subscribe. Share this with someone you know who's on Social Security or Medicare. I'll see you in the next one.